Forbes Press.
Hello everyone, my name is Nicole Richardson and I'm from Authors Press. Today is March 23rd, 2022, and I'm gathered here with Pamela Forbes, the author of The Forbes Way. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, Pamela?
Well, I grew up on a tomato farm in Tennessee. I'm the oldest of 4 kids, so I was kind of the leader to begin with, it seems. I left home basically when I was 14 and went away to school and came back for visiting most of but most of that was just back and forth, touching base with mom and daddy and the family, and then I was gone. So growing up on the farm, we were in a whole farm community, so there wasn't a lot of anything that went on except go to school and work in the fields, work in the house, whatever. And everybody did that, so we passed our used clothing around everybody, and farmers. My dad finished 8th grade. My mother, she completed all but 6 months of high school, almost graduated. She married my dad instead, but it worked out okay for them. So I, for whatever reason, went on to school. My parents didn't push either way, they always encouraged. So I ended up in college, and I remember specifically taking a class from a sociology teacher, and she made the statement that in whatever social economic group you're born in, that's the one you stay in and you can't get out. And of course I had to challenge her, and she didn't respond openly. She closed me off as a student, so I dropped the class. So I ended up becoming a teacher, and I think part of it was my innate gifts, but part of it was because I wanted the students to be able to question things and ask, and not be shut down. That was not a good thing, and I didn't like that in school. So in spite of it all, I kept going. So I taught in elementary school and some high school, some college, some university, for about 20 years in the classroom and 20 years in administration, and then recently retired, and I've moved back to the Tennessee farm where the tomatoes were and where I grew up.
So could you tell us a little bit about your book, The Forbes Way?
I had gone back in, I think it was about 2016 or so. I attended a Jerry Roberts seminar on being a writer. And he had a 3-day challenge, and I ended up taking the challenge, decided, well, maybe I should try to write a book. Because I'd written things, but I'd never had anything published. I never even tried. And I thought, well, it might be an interesting endeavor. So I started writing, and I talked to Jerry Roberts and the advisors. And so they kind of guided me on what to talk about based on my background and experience.
How did your journey as an author begin? Where did it all start for you?
Well, the first time I ever remember writing anything that had meaning to me and actually impacted other people when I shared it was when I was a sophomore in high school. And I had gone out to the little lake my dad had made out in the woods and sat out there in the quiet and just wrote something that came from my feelings in my heart at the moment about nature and man, and how man has kind of messed up things sometimes, and there doesn't seem to be a way to get back to where we were. So that's where it started. And then I just did little things, but I never really published anything or never tried to do anything at that point.
So is this your first book?
This is my first book.
Okay. So with this book, The Forbes Way, what is the main message you want to get across to your readers?
Well, the reason why I wrote the book is because as a teacher, I would see parents encouraging their children to take a line or a profession that was going to pay them well. And I understand that, but it didn't always match who they were. It was not necessarily their innate gifts, and those kids got pushed into something that was not their passion and not their natural gift. And they did it because of finances. And so as I got older and I realized how fortunate I was to actually be in a profession where it was a gift, my gift, and a calling. So I loved my job. I also realized it'd be a terrible thing to be in a job that you didn't love and to feel trapped there because you had to have the income. So as I began looking at my own retirement that was coming up and trying to face how the whole system had worked and not worked for even me, I decided to write a book to try to help people understand and to help encourage parents to push their children towards taking up what is their innate gifts, what they're passionate about, and finding another way, and there are other ways, to subsidize that financial thing if that's what they needed to do because it didn't make enough money. So my idea and my dream is that people would become who they were created to be and designed to be, and that there would be another way to make money if their particular profession didn't make enough or whatever it was they wanted, so that they could live the life that they were supposed to live and be happy and joyous.
Is this book a standalone or is it a part of a series?
Well, when I wrote it, I thought it would be a standalone. However, when I got to the end and I realized, okay, now I need to put into practice what I've talked about for me, for my retirement, which I have started doing, and I'm doing some classes right now, and I'm working on putting some things in place that can help the children, or help the young people, help parents financially. So if I get that off the ground, which I have no reason to think I won't unless something happens unexpectedly, then there would be another follow-up book on something about, here is several alternatives or choices that you as a parent and you as a young person entering college, starting in even in high school, can do to affect and create the kind of life that you really want and that you're designed to have.
So I feel like you've already mentioned this already, but who would you say is your target audience?
Yes, I probably have mentioned it sort of, but it would be parents for sure. Educators who are interested in thinking outside the box and not just getting the kids to go through the system. Leaders who are working with young people, who want to help them develop. And even in some cases, the young people themselves, as they begin to formulate and search what they're going to do and how they're going to do it for their life.
What does literary success look like to you, or what makes you feel successful as an author?
Well, I thought about that because when you go look at your book, you're going to say, at least as an author, I say, oh, I could have done this, or I should have added this. You know how you do.
Right.
You're your own hardest critic. But I thought, I would consider it a literary success if it impacts even the life of one or two people and causes those people to have a better life than they would have without it.
What was your favorite part about writing this book?
I think my favorite part was the part about the table that I wrote. I weaved a story about a table that I had purchased back in my early 20s for $10. in the Appalachian Mountains way up in Mountain City, Tennessee, where I opened up a little one-room school to teach. But that table had followed me throughout my life, and in fact, I still have it. And discovering about the integrity of the table, the value of the table, and all of that was just, it was a very enjoyable experience for me.
So on the other hand, what was the hardest part of writing this book, or what did you struggle with the most?
I think the part I struggled with the most was just how to organize the book. And the reason for that was the publisher chose the name of the book based on information I had given him about myself before I started to write the book. So I matched the book to the title.
I think that's really interesting because I mentioned being a published author, but I'm a writer on my free time as a hobby. When I write stories or poems, because I mostly write poetry, I won't name it for months, sometimes even a year or longer before I'm finally like, the title.
Yes, that makes sense. Yes, so this was the opposite direction. So it was an interesting experience.
What would you say is your biggest source of inspiration, or what has kept you driving from the beginning?
And I thought about that a lot. It's not a person. It's actually my innate desire, and I think I was born this way, to help other people be the best that they can be and who they're supposed to be. And it just is who I am, trying to help people and help kids discover this is who they are. So that drives me on.
What is some advice you wish somebody gave you before you started writing?
Maybe to have someone proofread everything a little bit better before I send it to the publisher.
Yeah, I can understand that because I probably wouldn't think about that either.
Yeah, I didn't think about it as much and it took me a while to write the book because I was working full time and all of that. So, but it would have helped to have had a good editor.
Yeah, and especially considering with self-publishing, if you want your book to be edited, you have to invest in that yourself, or you have to do it yourself.
Well, and I have already made arrangements for that to happen the next time. The first book and the mistakes, it was very distressing to me. And it was very interesting because the book was released I received my copies just as COVID hit. And so we couldn't do a book launching, we couldn't do anything. So it's been 2 years I've been processing this book in my mind because I can see errors or things that I would have added or whatever. And it's has bothered me to the point where I had to get past it to move on. And I'm thinking, okay, like you said, if the readers can see I'm growing as an author, that will be good.
Are you pleased with the outcome of this book, or would you go back and change anything if you had the chance?
Well, I really like the design and the illustrations that the publisher put in it. I like how it's put together, and I like that it's easy to read. It's not real crowded up, small print and all of that. There are things I would add. Yeah, there are things I would add. And the biggest thing I think if I had it to do over again is I would have someone proofread it and edit it to make sure I had not left out anything or made some errors that were kind of aggravating.
So is there anything else you want to talk about or mention or brush on before we move on?
I don't think of anything right now.
Okay. So where can readers find out more about you and your books?
Well, they can go to the website, theforbesway.com. I think that's the website, isn't it? I don't go to my own website in the same way. Yeah, Dr. Forbes at theforbesway.com is my email too. Yeah, see, the book says more information, go to the website and it's really my email. It's not my website, but my website is Dr. Forbes at the Forbes Way. So if they can go to that spot, that website is in the process of having information. And as I'm doing my journey for the next book, I will be posting information about the journey and about the development of the fulfillment of what I'm trying to do with this book for the kids.
I think that's a really cool thing because younger people are very technology based, especially people right around my age. I'm 19 years old, and everybody my age is heavily influenced by their phone or technology. So right. I think that will seriously open up the readers that you have, or the audience that you have. So for my final question, I want to know how you feel about working with Authors Press.
Well, I'm excited and delighted to work with Authors Press. I am thankful that you guys found me because I had no idea you existed. And I'm really looking forward to it. I think you guys are going to help me in a way that I would not have been able to help myself at all. And I'm just very grateful for it.
Yeah. And you said that we reached out to you first?
Yes.
Well, I mean, the only thing I can think of is it was meant to be.
Yes. I God moves in interesting ways, and
yeah, exactly. That's what
he's doing. Yes.
I think that's all the questions I have for you today. Thank you so much for meeting with me.
Yes, thank you. I appreciate the time and appreciate you working with me for this interview.
Oh yeah, definitely. Me too. I don't know if you know, but I'm trying to show you, but we're currently in our local bookstore.
Okay.
Yeah, I've got bookshelves all around me, and I see your book on the bookshelf quite frequently. And I find myself thinking, like, that looks like something I would have picked up in high school. That looks like something my teacher would have made me read, and it interests me. It makes me want to pick it up. So, that's cool. You know,
okay.
It's been very pleasant speaking with you and learning a bit about your book. And I'm glad that we did this because I'm probably going to buy your book.
Well, thank you. And you've done a great job being an interviewer. I appreciate it very much. You've helped put me at ease.
I quite enjoy doing interviews, actually. I get excited for them.
Yes, it shows. You've done a great job.
If you have any questions or concerns, please reach out to Authors Press, either via our phone number or our email, or you can also reach out to your consultant as well. But other than that, that's all I've got for you today. Thank you so much for meeting with me.
Thank you so much. And you have a great rest of the day.
This has been Pamela Forbes, the author of The Forbes Way, and Nicole Richardson from Authors Press. Thanks for tuning in.